All right, guys. Now, normally a lot when I educate and teach, that's what I'm trying to do here today. Yes, we're a sponsor. However, most of what I do is teaching and educating something we call workforce reengineering. And today I'm going to teach you, share some stories and case studies about that. But I've actually got to go fast. Again, great to see so many of you that are clients. Great to see new friends. I've heard some amazing stories from a number of you today. Thank you for sharing your stories. I've got to be careful not to keep talking and actually get on to topic. But education hat on. Let's rock. So, reimagining workforces. All right. So, one of my mentors many years ago said, Anthony, you can't save your way to wealth. But over the last 20-something years of working with business owners and particularly education companies, I absolutely know that you can save and restructure your way to profit. Now, we know this because this is happening right now in your organization, okay? And it's not just happening in your organization, it's happening across all businesses. So the concept of your leaders not doing high value work, labor being your number one cost, the concept of not having the right people in the right seats, and the fact that if you are offshoring, chances are you're doing it wrong. Now, this is important today because unlike most other audiences across the education sphere or across most businesses, we actually have people in this room that are using global staff. And it's very strange to see that. So we are going to touch on that. What we won't touch on, but it's a very important message that comes across for those of you in here, is the landmark trials done by Fair Work Australia recently. So the use of offshore staff from Australian companies it's not that it's not forbidden, you are liable and there will be consequences in the federal courts in Australia. That's not the topic, but I did promise to share it with a few people today to help them out. Okay, so let's keep going here. All right, so today I'm going to focus on three things. Number one, we're going to solve these problems by using the concept of workforce engineering. We're going to talk about the differences between offshoring done as a strategy versus as a random tactic. And if I had more time, please come up at the end. I'd love to tell you some crazy, funny stories, particularly out of the US and Canada and their education companies and the tactics that they want us to do. And it's crazy. And then, of course, this one, the major concept of how offshoring plus workforce engineering will equal exponential growth. And we want to touch on this partnership between PeoplePartners and the Meshed Academy. All right. So it's a fantastic opportunity. And we'll be having some of the Mesh group and Pramesh speak about this. All right. So for those of you that haven't heard me speak somewhere around the world, or you haven't followed us on LinkedIn, or you're not a client of PeoplePartners, why am I speaking to you about this? The interesting thing is that unlike other sectors that I speak into, this is my background. Yes, I'm a medical scientist, but let me take you back, and you all know where Brisbane is in this country. I don't have to teach you where this crazy country called Australia is. But 17 years ago in Brisbane, Australia, I was sitting there in our very large RTO, at that point, the largest privately owned RTO in the hospitality and commercial cookery space. And I'm sitting on our 3-story office in Bulimba in Brisbane, and I'm looking out over our 17 cars with our 98 staff. And it's about 5:30 in the afternoon. I'm Gen X, which means that I am first in and last out of the office. And all of a sudden I hear this, Ricey, get in here. Now, Rice is my surname. Now, this was my co-founder, still is my co-founder. Now, Ruben, unlike me, is not the passionate one. He's the pragmatic one. This is him, all right? I'm this one in our work marriage, all right? Now, I go into his office, and tell me if some of you have experienced this. I go into my office and I see this look on his face. That's him right there, and he doesn't get emotional. Now, he told me something, and this is what happened to me, and you get it, all right? I was about to vomit, and I was angry. So what he said, he got a newsletter. So this is the Queensland governing body. You're all responsible to a governing body as RTOs or higher eds, ASQAs and so forth. And somewhere deep buried in a newsletter was a little comment about some price changes. So we were excited. We thought CPI increase, right? It wasn't. Buried in there was the fact that our revenue was about to take a 70% dive. And in that moment, we both looked at each other and we knew we were going to go bankrupt immediately. We're in trouble. We make millions and millions and millions and millions and millions of dollars, but we were going to go bankrupt because labor is our most expensive commodity in that company. And it's all of yours too. So in that instant, we decided we weren't going to let our families go down. We weren't going to let our clients go down, our students go down. So we had to come up with something. Now, again, before it was common, what we decided on, and this took days and days of no sleep and crying, mainly by me, okay? But we realized we had to do something from a labor point of view. So we investigated the concept of outsourcing. Now, again, some of this is common now. It wasn't close to 20 years ago. The only thing that was happening was India and enterprise call centers. So what we did was, in a dramatic turn of events, we decided that we were going to ship my business partner off to the Philippines. We invested Sri Lanka, Nepal, Colombia, Mexico, all the countries, India, etc. And at that time, we were a first mover into the Philippines. We moved my business partner over there with his 2 kids and his wife. And I was flying over week in, week out, month in, month out, sleeping on floors, begging the Australian ambassador to the Philippines to give us an audience for us to become a Filipino company. And that's important for the Fair Work Australia comment, which I'm not speaking about today, but is a reference to that. And we could never do it again. It was a unique time in history, both with our ages and with the government and political climate. But we sold everything, sold our houses, sold our cars, bought commercial real estate over there. And less than 70 days later, this was us standing in Eastwood and Quezon City with a selection of our first 35 staff. We saved the company, but why am I telling you this? Because 2.5 weeks after this photo was taken in Eastwood in QC, co-founder, got my arm around him there, he calls me in his office again. He said, Anthony, have a look at this. I'm telling this story a lot faster than I normally do because we want to get onto the Meshed Academy and some case studies. But he showed me our latest claim, and it was our most profitable month ever. Now, I know I've spoken fast, so let me underline this. We had 70% revenue, okay? 70% less. We lost 7 cents out of every 10. And we had our most profitable month in the history of our 12-year RTO. Now, it wasn't by going, hey, let's grab a couple of random VAs, a bag of French fries and a Coke, which is what every education company comes to us and asks for. It was about strategically looking at how we could offshore. Because again, as a face-to-face training organization, what could we do? Same thing as everyone comes to us and asks for, an assistant. But we looked at it and we said, no, that trainer right there, they're spending their time on $6 an hour tasks. Let's rip everything away from them that's not training. Because a lot of you in this room that are already clients that I've spoken to, the problem's not that you don't have enough completions. The problem is not that you need more trainers. You need your trainers to only be training. You don't need them chasing delinquent students. You don't need them marking. You don't need them doing admin. Just like you don't need your business development managers doing tippy-tappy work either. You need them selling. So that's what we did. Now, what did we realize? Again, if we had done this 2 years earlier, we would have been minting it. So for those CFOs in the room and CPAs, and I know there's a few of you, or those of you that are CEOs, understand, please do this before you need it. Because if Ruben and I did it before you need it, the culmination of that most profitable month ever was $2.14 million in profit that we created. But of course, in a 70% reduction in revenue, it allowed us to keep the business going. If we did it before we needed it, that would have been an extra $1 million to myself and my co-founder each. And I can tell you at that point, we weren't paying each other $1 million a year. So unless you're paying each other $1 to $2 million each a year, then maybe we can help you. All right, I'm going to skip some stuff here. This is for the nerds in the room. And I love this one. When it comes to money, I am a nerd. It's the only way that I do it. So CPAs and accountants, I know who you are. I've met a few of you. There you are. You're all smiling at me. You know I'm talking to you. Anyone that's not, that's frowning at me, I know I'm speaking fast, but please, this is money. This is going to help you. All right. Let's have a look at a normal business. 71% on labor is pretty standard. 500,000 in labor to make 700,000 in revenue. Workforce engineering, this concept I'm about to get into, strategic efficiency, changing your org charts. All right. We can make it twice as efficient. Then we add global staffing, not randomly, only after we workforce engineer, which is what we're specialty and our claim to fame and what I teach. And as you can see in that example, that's a pretty common example, collapsing your labor costs from 71 down to 11%, which increases your gross margin in this example, as you can see, by 213%. So here's just an example. Take photos. I can see you doing it. It's very helpful, but understand again, it's a combination of workforce engineering plus global staffing. All right. So let's get into some stories from clients just like you. All right. I haven't jumped off the stage. I think everyone can see me, but I'm terrified about walking off. Okay. So now imagine I'm going to show you some org charts. Okay. Now this one is just a piece of it. So imagine if this org chart was spread across all the other departments. All right. Now with this one, if I mention the company's name, you'd know them. They're in Melbourne. They're large. All right. Now, the reason they became a client was this lady up here, the HR manager. I got off stage a few years ago at an ITECA conference. And she says, Anthony, I'm the rock star of this company, which is strange for a HR manager. All right. I'm the rock star of this company. I'm 2IC to the CEO. My husband and him are best friends. His wife and myself are best friends. And if I don't quit in the next 2 weeks, he's going to fire me. See, what happens is that this was the company. Have a look at it. Overwhelming confusion. She's working 12 to 14 hours a day, audit prep, office manager, HR manager, doing everything. You got this training manager over here, 4 training managers in 1 year. 4 training managers in 1 year. Some of you can relate to that. All right. I know you can. She had 9 trainers under her, and look at what she's doing, because of course she's the training manager. So of course, what does she have to do? Instructional design, resource development, all these things over and over again. So when we workforce engineered, when she came to us, she didn't say, Anthony, we need to lower our cost by 70%. Can we have a VA? That's not the game plan. Okay. The game plan is to strategically look at doing it. So this company has over 400 onshore staff. We have close to 100 offshore with them, but this is where we started. We identified the 2 biggest constraints. 2 biggest constraints was that she was doing 2 people's jobs. She was doing the recruitment and the compliance, and that is what most HR managers do. All right. So we employed a HR coordinator and we employed a recruiter, because both of those roles, the 80%, are $6 an hour tasks. Your onshore leaders should only be doing $100 an hour tasks. So that's the mission, right? We want to get rid of every $6 an hour task, every $10 an hour task, and with AI, even every $50 an hour task now. Have your offshore team members do that and leave only your onshore people doing what makes them fulfilled and happy and moves the needle. So as you can see, with the training manager as well, what did we do? We made the resource developer, an instructional designer, a training coordinator, which was basically her assistant, and a quality assurance officer. And most importantly, we provided a student support officer to every trainer. So now the trainers are completing 70% more completions every single day, every single week, because all they're doing is teaching. They're not doing admin. This is one of my favorite case studies. It's a big one. Okay. And this is for those of you that have a big organization in here. All right. This company is one of our educational clients in the US. When they came up to me, I got off stage and they said, Anthony, we think we need this. And what did they say? Think we need a VA. I was like, clearly you've heard me, but you haven't heard me. So what happened was we got with the integrator. These guys run on a system called EOS, if you've ever heard of it. Visionary is the CEO, integrator is the COO. I know I'm speaking fast. I apologize. Please come up and speak to me. I'll speak slower when you speak to me. I just want to get everything covered and add as much value as I can. So what was interesting about this group was we always say, can we look at your org chart though? Can we have a look at that org chart? So what we did was there was over 400 people there. We tackled the leadership team first. Now, what was interesting with workforce engineering, the way that we do it, is that we task analyze the leaders. And all of them did 10 to 15 things every single day. But here was what was fascinating, is as you can see, they did 3 things that were the same: budgets, reporting, and scheduling. Now, these are $6 an hour tasks. And you want to hear something really funny? The most detailed manager in that company was spending 8 hours a week doing those 3 tasks. Who's the most non-detailed person on that org chart? The marketing manager, of course, because they're a creative, right? How long do you think they were spending to do these 3 things every single week? And for an owner or a CFO in the room, let me say that a different way. How much were you paying that marketing manager to do these 3 tasks every week? 22 hours per week. So across that leadership team, 90 hours a week was being spent on those 3 tasks. Assuming $100 an hour, that's close to $500,000 a year being spent on that. So straight away, the integrator or the COO's example of using a VA, we needed to say, sorry, that's not how you work, okay? So this is what we did. Obviously an EA for the visionary and the integrator. And then of course, we hired specific roles. And this is important for today as we move into the concept of the Meshed Academy. Specific roles, not random offshore tactics. For these guys, it became an auditor, a finance coordinator, a scheduler, and a business insights person, and naturally an EA for the CEO and the COO. We're now workforce engineering into the rest of that org chart, and the stats normally don't lie. At about 400 onshore, they're probably going to be somewhere about 100 to 120 offshore. Okay, last one before I give some space in the microphone to Pramesh. And I think I've gone faster, but hopefully you're getting some nuggets and some thinking, and we can follow up with some conversations at the back. But here is a big one, because this has been mentioned by 4 of you in this room to me today already, and it's my favorite one. I'm always approached with, oh, got a new salesperson, got a new sales manager. Why? The other ones were crap. Maybe they were, right? Salespeople are good in interviews, aren't they? Because they can sell you. But then all of a sudden, they can't sell you anything in your business. And I've got more laughs out of that than anything, so you all know. All right. So here was an RTO in Queensland, all right? Now, again, imagine an org chart. This is just the front end of their business. So we're talking sales and marketing. Naturally, they have a finance department. They have a training department. They have an ops department. They've got that all, but this is the front end. They're spending $120,000 a month on lead gen. And then they've got 5 BDMs on the road. They've got 3 admin people in the office, and you can see the numbers there. And I don't need to teach you super because we all live in Australia, so you understand these terms. I'm not explaining it to the US. So $1.14 million just to get the information to the admissions and enrollments team. All right, 1.14 million. And you guys know this. If you've got any size, this is your game. We need to make that just to pay them. So what did we do with those guys? All right. So the first thing we did, they actually wanted to sell. It was confidential, but you don't know them. So I can say whatever I want. So they wanted to sell. So the first thing was you need to bring your IP in. So we made sure we got rid of the external marketing agency that they were hemorrhaging money to, and we hired them a marketing manager, a social media marketing coordinator, graphic designer, and a copywriter. Okay, went from $120,000 a month to $55,000. Any companies in here deal with school-based? Are there any RTOs not in higher ed that deal with school-based trainees? Yep. So school-based is why there's recruiters there. We hired 2 recruiters, and their sole job was to get resumes from the high schools of people that the BDMs could take to businesses and effectively say, here's your next 10 staff members. All right. There was a lot of movement in the admin team, offshoring into very narrow lanes down there. But the main thing I want to show you, because this is what 4 separate people have told me in this room today, you're salespeople. I get trainers and I get salespeople. So same thing here. If you are paying Australian wages for people to sell, please, because we've all done it, we've all done it, we've all done it. Stop making them type in call notes because they won't do it. And they'll send a terrible email and they'll misspell stuff and it will look terrible. All right. And then they won't follow them up. Better hire a sales manager to get those salespeople in order. And what do they spend time doing? Have you done your call notes? Have you done this? Just let salespeople sell. And that's what we did with these guys. We took every single thing away from them. Okay. And we just said, just sell. Everything else goes to your sales coordinator, booking your appointments, putting in all your call notes, confirming your appointments, sending all your emails, etc. And as you can see, 1.14 million down to 460,000. Okay. We were going to look at South Africa, our talent, all of our talent at PeoplePartners, as is found in the Philippines for education, South Africa as well. All right. This was quick, but as you can see here, it is rarely the role that's a problem. It's the tasks inside your roles that are the constraint. And not you and you, like you and every other company that we speak to around the world, okay? As we continue looking to these main points, it's workforce re-engineering plus global staffing. Some of you in here have shark bite problems, so we will just be able to help with global staffing, but often you need workforce engineering. We've talked about the difference between strategies versus tactics, and we're now going to move into, again, the importance of strategic roles. So in education, we are going to reintroduce this concept of the meshed academy. And most importantly, we're not talking about getting rid of onshore jobs. We're talking about making sure that yourself and all of your team members are only doing $500 an hour work that juices you, not $6 an hour work that drains you. All right. So roles you know you need and roles you don't know you need. Now, as we work into those roles, the Meshed Academy is a key part of that. So I'm actually going to bring up Pramesh now to start talking about some of these nuances, and then I'll finish up maybe with a QR code and some other cool stuff. Thanks, Pramesh.